Hey everyone, it's March 2nd, so let's talk about everything I read in February. And at the very end, I'm going to pull a Louise Savage and talk about my favorite book of February. So, with that being said, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books in February. So I'm going to talk about all of them because I was going to save my favorite for last, but I honestly think I need to talk about these to figure out what my favorite was because there are probably three that are in competition for the top spot, so I don't even know. So in celebration of Black History Month, I kind of ended January and started February reading loads of books by Black authors, and then apparently dropped the ball the rest of the month. But I started with Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I had never read a Kennedy Ryan book before, and I also rarely read romance. So I just wanted to see what all the hype was about. And I liked this book. I still think that romance is not my go-to, but it was nice. This was had a lot of food writing and stuff in here too. Basically, it was about two owners of a restaurant that used to be together and had a kid or two. This was, yeah, two kids. I read this like very first in the month. Anyway, but even though they still have this business together and even though they still co-parent, they are separated or divorced. I can't remember. But it is basically their journey trying to do all that while managing mental health of some stuff that happened to our main character, and that kind of was a catalyst for their relationship breaking up. So there's loads of mental health references in here, which gave it more depth than just a standard romance. And then obviously there's race stuff in here, which also gives it more depth, but it's just their journey of trying to do this business, co-parent, and like figure out their lives and their connection or lack of connection to one another. And it was really good. I think I'm going to pass it along. But yeah, I'm glad I read it. Okay. Then I read The Probability of Everything by Sarah Everett. Loved this book so much. So spoiler alert, this is one that's in the running for the favorite book, my favorite book of February. This was just a middle grade book about a girl who finds out that the world is going to be coming to an end soon. An asteroid is about to hit the Earth, and it's her trying to gather up memories that she can put in a time capsule and just like reflect on like what has been important in her life and how will people remember her family, her civilization, all this stuff. It has vibes of like kind of the beginning COVID days where like something bad is coming, but it's just scary and no one really knows what's going on. But without giving too much away, this book takes a drastic turn and everything is thrown out the window, and it is amazing. So I highly recommend this. Loads of Black Lives Matter sort of themes in here and really exciting and engaging for kids. Then another contender for top book of the month was Under the Knife by Liz O'Riordan. She is a breast surgeon and breast cancer patient. This is a journey of hers just kind of going through medical school and like dissecting her first male cadaver when she had never seen like a male body before that, when she was 18 years old. And it just goes through like her whole, like all her surgical rotations. So there's loads of like medical stuff. And like, if you're just interested about what that's like for people, which I'm like super nosy and I just am here for it. I love to hear that sort of stuff. That is in here. And then at the very end, obviously, you know where this is going because, well, if you know her, she is diagnosed with breast cancer, and that is talked about how it impacts her relationship and how it impacts her as a breast surgeon and all this stuff. This book I've basically compared to like Adam Kay meets Brene Brown. So you have like the funny bits, but then you have this raw realness, and that's the same as on her Instagram. So I initially heard about this book through her Instagram, and I found her through her Instagram, like in researching breast cancer stuff for like myself, for my mom. I don't have breast cancer, I'm just at high risk. And she presents the exact same on her Instagram. So it is genuine through and through. She is vulnerable on her Instagram. She complains when stuff happens to her that sucks, and that is going to happen to her every few weeks for the rest of her life, like side effects from medicine and stuff like that she has to deal with. She posts pictures on there sometimes with like her hair not done, no makeup. Like, she is so real. Workout videos. There was a post that recently inspired me when she said that she went for a run. She didn't want to, but she knew how good it was for her. Like, she's so real. And this book also covers loads on mental health. So that is also something that is just super raw and vulnerable that she's honest about, because it's going to help people. So definitely high recommend for this one as well. Then I read Q, which, like, this is like bam, bam, bam. All my favorites were in this one period, which also is around the time that I went on my solo reading vacation. So that's interesting. Q is by Christina Delcher. It is not published in the United States, which is interesting because her other books are. This is about kind of a dystopian society in the US where IQ has been basically made the most important part of your entire life, and the whole society is just really based on what your Q score is, and about all the horrible impacts of that. I did a really long discussion of this in my my vlog for my like solo reading vacation, so I'm not going to go into too much more. But if you're wanting to dig deeper into like American education and all the problems with it in like a dystopian society sort of way, you should totally do this. I read it after Sarah from Your True Self, but we had a really, really good discussion about it. Then I read Practices for Embodied Living, Experiencing the Wisdom of Your Body by Hilary L. McBride, PhD. She basically wrote this book because we view our mind and our body as separate. We are not our body. We're going to leave this earth one day and our body will not go with us and we'll be free and all this stuff. And she's like, no, that's trash, right? No. That we are born, we come into this world as a person living in a body, and through our society, we like disconnect mind and body. And this is an attempt to get adults into their bodies through interoception, through mindfulness, all this stuff, just trying to get you back in there. There's loads of journaling prompts. And then also, as with Under the Knife, this author has had horrific stuff happen to her body, and she has posted about it on social media. So this isn't coming from some woo-woo person who has never experienced real life. This is real. Then, as I mentioned in another video, I am starting to notice a few little changes with my cycle. And so I wanted to read Perimenopause Power by Maisie Hill. I loved her first book, Period Power. And so I was just curious what she would say about what is coming up. She is the one that initially made me learn basically that you could have symptoms for like 10 years before, you know, everything legit happens. So if you're like my age and you're just noticing teeny tiny little things, like actually they could be headed in a direction that you're not even thinking about yet because that's not where you are, right? So yeah, I thought this was really interesting. Some of it I was not 100% sure on the science behind it. Like there was one part where she was saying that like people had these symptoms, but then they added in meat and eggs to their diet and everything was like really better. Like it was way better. And like I just personally don't eat meat. Sometimes eggs, very rarely. I probably have like 6 eggs a year. But yeah, I wasn't sure about that bit. Then I read Mrs. S, which was also very good. And I ended up ordering a new copy of it because if you remember, I water damaged my other one and it was kind of, oh, this is the same one. So maybe the other one hasn't come in yet. But yeah, it's just kind of crinkly and crunchy. This is about a woman from Australia who ends up getting a job in the UK as like this person at a boarding school who's gonna kind of take care of all the girls. And she also is a lesbian and starts a relationship where there is an unbalance of the power dynamic. And I love the ending. Okay, cool. Then I read A Shining by John Foss. This was super tiny, and I kind of read it as part of these, well, this one too. I started these tiny sprints just trying to get more books in before the end of the month. This one was really, really cool, even though it's tiny. This guy goes into the woods with his car, like he just drives into the woods because he's bored. He turns right, he turns left, he turns all these ways, like he's just kind of seeing what happens. Well, he gets stuck, and it's kind of this unsettling journey in what happens after he gets stuck, what happens in the woods when you're alone, and it's starting to get dark and it's starting to snow and you're really far away from everybody else. Then I read The Last Language, which had a really, really cool premise that I was here for, but I ended up not loving it, just because I think of what I know as a special education teacher. This is about a woman who got fired from her position and ended up trying to get another job and ended up working for like this research situation that was kind of like learning more about like assistive communication, like guided communication. I don't know the technical name for it, but basically she was assigned to this man. He was 28, lived with his parents and stuff like that because of severe autism, but it was her job to get him to communicate. So she would kind of facilitate the communication by like holding a stick or something, and his hand would be on the stick and then hers would be over top of it, and he would communicate through her assistance with this like keypad sort of situation. And obviously everyone knows it's not scientifically based. It's super problematic. There's been loads of bad stuff about this. And it is about another power dynamic situation where she ends up getting in trouble because she ends up falling for him and they're randomly doing stuff in his family's house. Well, his family's there and it's real awkward and super inappropriate, and I didn't like the morals of the main character. Like her ethics were super off, and yeah, I didn't love it, but I wanted to love it. And then finally, another book that I wanted to love and I didn't is called The Pole by J.M. Coetzee. This was about a relationship between this random like pianist and this lady that he meets one time who asks him a good question, and then he like falls for her and like writes her all these letters and they keep in touch forever and ever. And it was fine. It was nothing to write home about, and I was bummed that I didn't love it as much as Ann Novella loved it. So those are the books I read. I'm going to pause this video because my battery's low and I want to make sure that I can have a quick think about what is my favorite book. Okay, so the top three are Q, Under the Knife, and The Probability of Everything. The Probability of Everything is probably the best children's book I've read in a long time, but I don't normally talk about children's books on here. So I think it's going to be between Under the Knife and Q. Oh gosh, this is so hard. I think I'm gonna go with Q because I loved the discussions that I had with Sarah about this book. I loved how connected it was to my profession and all the opinions that I have. Like even when Sarah was just talking about it, I was like, hang on, like I need to read this because I already want to tell you this, that is making me mad or whatever. So yeah, I think that this book has just loads to discuss and is like kind of like The Giver or something, where it's like this dystopian society and you can have all these different conversations just based on one book. So I think I'm gonna go with this one as my favorite book of February. I would love to see you guys, to see your February wrap-ups, to see what your favorite book of the month was. If you do not have a channel, go ahead and tell me your favorite book of February below. But if you do have a channel, I would love to see a February wrap-up. I think I'm really the last one that does these. Like, it used to be that it was too intimidating to wait until the end of the month to talk about books, but I'm wondering if I have slowed down and I'm not reading as many books each month. I don't really know. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day and I'll talk to you later. Bye.